So Nick, thanks for joining us. First question, who are you and what do you do?
Well, my name's Nick Garnett and I'm a reporter with Radio 5 Live. But I don't really do very much radio really these days because the way that news organisations are going is that we are having to do more and more outlets. So about a year ago, 5 Live decided that we needed to up our video content. Now, I've been playing around with video. I'd never call myself a camera operator or a camera person. I'm a journalist who shoots things or who records things or who writes things down. And whatever the method of delivery at the end of the day is secondary to the story, really. This year I've been in Iraq, I've been in South Sudan, which was staggering. I've been in South Korea as well. And so, Tunisia I think I've been to this year, and Berlin with the terror attacks last December, in December 2016. And so I've sort of developed this role of going off, doing radio, but also thinking about the video terms in video terms as well.
Wow. Well, I mean, I guess a lot of people listening to this show, probably their first thing they want to ask is, wow, well, what kit are you using? What allows you to do all of this different types of, multimedia journalism and travel light? Can you fill us in?
Right. There have been cases where I've gone with just a phone. There was one time I was on, actually it was the time that I came to Jordan with you. I mean, I had a satellite dish for radio and a mobile phone, and that was it. And at the end of the day, as long as your mobile phone is decent enough quality, you can get away with it. I'm not saying that's all you need, but you can get away with it. Because if we just think of devices as content gathering machines, then as long as you've got a decent content gatherer, you're okay, aren't you? So sometimes it's been a phone. My daily kit that I carry around now is an Osmo mobile or an Osmo with the camera on. Now that's the DJI gimbal, which is terrific because a lot of the stuff that I do, they're fairly short video pieces. And you'll know this, the first 3 seconds of any piece are crucial because that's the time that it takes someone to swipe up on Facebook or on social media. You've got 3 seconds to catch the person. So your shots, they don't have to be great, but they have to move. There has to be movement in them. There has to be some beauty in them. There has to be something that grabs people and drags them in. And a lot of the time, that's motion. That's following people around or moving with them or spotting them. I remember very strongly one of the films that you did, which was on of skateboarding.
Oh right, yeah, I've forgotten about that one.
Yeah, but the movement in that is what creates the hunger for people to stay there. So you've got sort of like 3 seconds to grab people. So your shots need to be good. So there's no point in me setting up a dirty great big ENG camera, a news gathering camera, and getting a very nice locked off shot for 15 seconds. Because my audience will have just moved on to the next video immediately. The Osmo with the camera is fantastic, except it does tend to look like a gun when you're holding it, which can be slightly problematic in some places.
I've never thought of that, but I suppose it does a little bit.
It's really scary. I'll send you an image, and hopefully you can stick it over this bit that we're talking about now, and you can see exactly what it looks like. This image was taken in Iraq, right on the border between Kurdistan and Iraq, so about 15, 20 miles from Mosul. It was at a time when the Iraqi army and the Kurdistan, the Peshmerga, were very, very wary about the so-called IS group being still active in the area. So what they were doing was they were camped out on the top of buildings. And if you look in the back of that image, you can see some low-level buildings. And there were snipers on the top of that building. So when I was interviewing this guy, holding my Osmo, it looks, to all intents and purposes, as if I'm carrying a weapon and pointing the weapon at him. So before we knew that was going to be the case. So before we did, the security advisor who was with us, and I went up to all the buildings and explained to the soldiers what we were going to be doing and who we were going to talk to, and the fact that it does look like a weapon. But that's a big problem. There are so many places that we're sent to now as journalists where you're working on your own, you're a self-operator, and you pull out of some bag some bizarre-looking kit that people just don't see in the street. And so that's, if you're operating on your own, you've got no idea what's going on behind you, or if the police are about to land on your back, you've no idea because you're working in a forwards environment. And, most of the time we don't have things with press or journalists all over us.
Yeah.
So that's so that's my Osmo. That's my gimbal kit. The reason I like to use the gimbal...
Just quickly on that point. So if you're using your Osmo gimbal with the camera, built in, was it the Zen Moose or whatever it is?
Yeah.
What do you do for audio? I know there's an audio jack input, but I found it rubbish. Do you record separately?
Well, two things. I mean, there's two ways of doing it. If you go in very close, one of the great things about the Osmo is because of the focal length of the lens, you only have to be about 4 feet, a meter away from the camera before you're in focus. So you can get away with an external mic. The one I use is... Let me go and get it. It won't be a second.
No problem.
It's just here. Is this one. Now, this is
I've seen that.
Rode Video Micro.
Yeah.
With a bracket on it that goes on the Osmo and hangs off the Osmo. And then that goes into the Osmo socket, the Osmo the Osmo phone socket on the front of it. So that gives you very good audio, very close up.
Right, okay.
I was going to say as far as you and I are away from each other, but we are...
Just a few thousand miles.
So that's quite good for quiet environments where you just work. So I've used that in buildings and things like that. It's not great for further apart. So I've got a radio mic kit, a bit like the Rode News Shooter kit. Mine's made by Audio Technica. So yeah, Osmo audio is a real problem. Most of the time, let's be honest, most people are using a gimbal just for the shots and maybe some Atmos.
Yeah, I mean, that's how I'm using it. Yeah.
Yeah. But when you're, frankly, a bit rubbish like me, you use it because you don't have to handhold. One of the problems, of course, always with self-shooting, we all know this, is that where's the eye line of the and the amount of times haven't we all sort of like held our camera further out?
You find yourself sort of doing that.
Yeah. And it gets so heavy after sort of like just 2 or 3 minutes, and all the blood's draining out your fingers. You can't focus. You can't do anything with the blasted thing. You have to stick it on autofocus.
Yeah.
So that's not a great way of working. But with the gimbal, you can sort of angle your monitor so that the phone, so you're looking at it as well. So you can just glance with one eye, and you're not having to move your head back to have a look at the blasted thing and see. I mean, the amount of you will always see it, don't you, with self-operating crews? The amount of things that we have to do to try and do the job as well as we possibly can.
So I guess we've sort of touched on quite a lot of things there. How do you see things developing maybe over the next 5 to 10 years? Not just in terms of kit, but also in terms of the job and how that might change. Maybe because of the changing technology.
If I could second guess anything over the last few years, I'd have been a really rich man. We don't know, I don't think, how things are going to develop. I think that one of the things that's happened is that always there's been this battle between the consumer and the professional. And at the moment, we're seeing a real push-up in technology terms in consumer kit. And so, we're getting to a point now, especially with some of the video editing apps that are around, the GoPro, is it Quick? The Quick
I've not used it.
The editing app for GoPro. These are devices and these are apps now that are starting to take the decisions for us about where the edit comes and where the cut point comes. And we're going to see more and more of that as software develops and it starts to take out that decision-making process for us. In audio terms, you've got things like from Adobe at the moment that is able to put in missing words in an audio track by checking how the person speaks elsewhere. It basically becomes like a sampler that will then put in a word. So, God, fake news. Where the hell do we go with that? It's incredibly scary. You can change the complete meaning of people's speeches, and to all intents and purposes, you wouldn't be able to tell at all. So I think that there's going to be more software intervention in the way that we work, in the way that we edit, and as professionals, we're going to have to up our game in terms of what that means for us. Are we going to still have jobs in 5-10 years' time? I don't know. It's going to be more difficult to monetize them, definitely.
Yeah.
And how we do that, it's not going to be. We're not going to make a fortune out of stock photos and stock video footage and try to sell that. So I don't know. I don't know where it's going at the moment. I am slightly worried about how it's going to develop. Really, is there going to be a difference between what we do and what everybody else is doing?
I just wondered, for anyone listening who wants to sort of travel like you do, and maybe use some of your experience so they don't make any of the same mistakes, is there any tips you want to pass on for people in terms of travel and surviving in dangerous places?
You're the master of this one, really, aren't you? I mean, you're the
Well,
one. You're the
to
one
be.
that's
Not
you're the one
anymore.
that started. You're the one though that started the ball rolling in terms of my head, in terms of the fact that we as operators have responsibilities to ourselves and to the people that we're working with when we're carrying kit around. So I'm trying to think what my best tips are. Photograph your luggage before you go to the airport. Because
nice.
then you take photographs of it, and when you land up in a country where you don't speak their language, then you can actually show them a photograph of your missing kit. Split your kit up into different bags when you're travelling. Wear sunglasses when you come out of the airport, so that when you are looking around in complete panic for the taxi rank, no one else can see you.
Nick, thanks so much. That was fantastic.